Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, Kristen.
Good.
Excellent.
Good.
Started up at school this week, so
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, a couple days a week at Lincoln School, hanging out with the kiddos, and we've been open at our physical locations
yeah,
for
we
a
sure
couple
have.
weeks.
We've
so
seen some familiar faces and
behind those masks,
volunteers.
faces.
And,
yeah.
Yep.
So it's just good after so many months of not seeing people, being able to see people.
Yep.
Well, for all of those of you that are still worshiping at home, I hope we have a treat for you today.
Yeah. I think we got some good stuff in store.
Hey, listen, it's our first time.
Yeah, this is our first
to bring you a lesson from us instead of
from the studio
curriculum. Yeah, our low budget studio. So if it's not great, we hope you'll come back.
Grace. Just give us a little grace.
Little grace, and we hope that we'll see you again next week.
That's right.
We are zooming into the first 5 books of the Bible. So we have already zoomed into the first 3. So this is week 4, and we are learning all about the book of Numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
which oddly is not really about
numbers
at all.
So we'll see you on the other side.
Yep.
Testing. Hello, Kristen. Are we on? Is it in? Oh, hey, boys and girls, how are you there? So we are zooming in this month at Crossbridge Kids and learning the first 5 books of the Bible. Yes. So week 1 we did Genesis. Week 2 we did Exodus. Week 3 we did Leviticus, and this week we are zooming in real close, and then we're going to zoom out the whole book of Numbers. Now, don't worry, it's not just a book of numbers. There's actually words in it too. So if you're ready, this is how it works. We're going to play a video, and it's going to be zoomed in real tight, and then when it starts zooming out, I want you to shout out what you think it is, okay? So here is the first one. Go. Sign. When one is driving and you see a speed limit, we have to slow down. We have to stay in the rules of the road, the rules of not speeding, because there's consequences when we break the rules. So, for example, if your mom or dad are speeding, or maybe your older brother can drive, or your older sister, and they could get a ticket, they could get pulled over. If they're speeding, they could get into an accident because they're driving too fast and someone else turns. So there's a consequence when we break the rules. And that is what the book of Numbers is about, boys and girls, that the people of God, they broke some of God's rules, and then unfortunately, they had to pay some consequences. So if you're ready to learn, here we go. This is our first Zoom. Get ready and action. It's a piece of bread. So here's how this works, boys and girls. When the Israelites were in Egypt as slaves, and then through the power of the 10 plagues, they were able to go into the wilderness, there wasn't much to eat in the wilderness. And there's no grocery store, there isn't any restaurants, and so God fed his people through this really cool way of he would send down manna. And manna is this sticky substance they could pick up off the ground each morning and bake it into bread. And so that's pretty cool. Every day was a miracle in how they were getting fed. And the people of God, the Israelites, they complained. They were like, hey God, this isn't good enough. We don't like this bread. It's kind of boring. We're over it. And they even told Moses, they even told their leader Moses, we would rather go back to Egypt and eat the food there and be slaves for the rest of our lives than to continue eating this bread. Do you think God appreciated their unthankfulness or their not being grateful for what he provided for them? No. And so there was a consequence. Okay, we're going to zoom in again so we can learn about this consequence, boys and girls. Here we go. That's right. It's a fire hydrant, boys and girls. Okay, so here's how this worked. Now, they lived in a tent city when they were in the wilderness. So their camp would have been made of tents. And, so here's what happened, boys and girls. God sent a fire, like a blazing fire, in through their tent city, so their camp. Imagine like a wildfire burning through the woods. And all the people took off running, and they were running. And you know what Moses did, boys and girls? He drops to his knees, and he prays to God, forgive us, forgive the people for complaining, for arguing, for not being thankful. And the fire went out. God forgave his people because ultimately he wants a relationship with us, and he doesn't want to have this separation that sin causes. And so when the people asked for forgiveness, he gave it. But the story doesn't end there, and unfortunately more happens in the book of Numbers, and we will continue right after this Zoom. Grasshopper. Yes, and I know you're thinking, Miss Rachel, why are there bugs in the Bible? Well, let me explain. Here's what happens. The people of God, the entire nation of Israel, have been wandering in the desert, going from Egypt to the promised land. Now, that's the land that God promised Abraham hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before. And here's the problem. When Jacob and his 12 sons moved to Egypt, other people moved into the land. So now there are cities, and there are strongholds, and there are nations in this land. So Moses, he sends in 12 spies, and 10 of them come back, and they say that there's no way we can go in because the people are giants, and compared to those gigantic people, we look like grasshoppers. There it is, bugs in the Bible, boys and girls. Now, 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, they said, hey, if God is for us, who can be against us? Let's go. God has told us to go take that land, and we need to go. But the people of God were scared, boys and girls. And even though God told them to go and that he would fight for them, they stood still. They didn't go. And they were really scared, and they disobeyed God in their fear. And now we have one last Zoom because it's going to teach us what the consequence was for their disobedience.